Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in.
The chalice is the symbol of our UU faith. If you have a chalice or a candle at home, it is time now to light it together as we say the same words we say each week at our fellowship.
We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way, as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart. Let the lighting of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning. I am Marie Luna, your Director of Congregational Life. Thank you for welcoming us into your home today. It is good to be together, even in this online format. We love to see your faces and feel your presence. If you are joining us from another Unitarian Universalist congregation, welcome. If this is your first time visiting the fellowship, I want to extend you a special welcome. I want to help you find out more about our fellowship, which even during this time of online gathering has lots to do. Please send me an email. I'll put my email address in the chat box. Today's service is being led and supported by Reverend Christina Leone-Tracy, our Senior Minister, Reverend Leah Angiri, our Associate Minister, Allie Peters, our Intern Minister, Brian Merton, our Lay Worship Leader, Kim Hartman, our Director of Religious Education, Steve Seek, our Music Director, our wonderful musicians and singers, and Adam Robinson, our AV Tech. Thank you to everyone who has made this morning's service possible. This year, we are focusing on growing resilience. We are digging into what it means to grow ourselves and our community to be sources of life, even when things get tough. Right now, we are in the weeks of our creativity theme. Thank you for joining us as we practice being a community of creativity, thinking outside the box and bringing beauty into our world. It is now time to settle into your space, wherever you are, to take a deep breath and be present to this time together, even from afar.
Hi, Allie. I'm ready to do the Time for All Ages together.
Wait, Kim, is that you?
Yeah, Allie, it's me, Kim.
Wait, Kim, you look like a kitten. Why? I think you might have a filter on.
Yeah. I was hoping that you wouldn't notice. Somehow I got this filter on and I can't change it. But I am prepared to move forward with our Time for All Ages.
Okay, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead and start.
Each one of us, no matter our age or stage in life, is always on a journey. Our 7 UU principles call us to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and we take time each week when we gather to hear stories.
Kim, I'm sorry, Kim, I have to stop you. I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight face. I don't think this is gonna work. I mean, I can't stop thinking about how you're a cat.
It's not working. Okay, Ellie, I know I feel kind of silly. And I am actually afraid that people watching right now won't recognize me. Or even worse, what if they actually think that I'm a cat now? I'm not a cat.
You're not a cat. Have you tried going to the video settings to change it, Kim?
Yeah, yes, I have. I've done it and nothing is working.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It can be so frustrating when things don't go the way you've planned, huh?
Yeah.
I guess, well, sometimes I guess you just have to change direction quickly, right? Like, especially if the moment isn't what you thought it would be. But that's the nature of life. We just deal with whatever comes and we continue to go on, even if we're a cat.
Yeah, right. It's just like me right now. I cannot change my filter. So maybe I need to be open to a new plan for our time for all ages.
Yeah, I guess. Kim, today we're talking about the yes and philosophy that people use when they do improvised comedy that's made up together on the spot. When we say yes and, that means that we can take unexpected things that happen and turn them into opportunities, the chance to do something new. So we can say, yes, Kim looks like a cat, and we can use it to come up with a new idea for our time for all ages. Yes, and is one way we can learn to be resilient.
So you're saying that I can take this problem with my cat filter and turn it into an opportunity to be resilient?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that's cool, Ellie. But I still kind of feel embarrassed that I look like a cat right now in front of everybody at the fellowship.
Oh, I have an idea. Part of saying yes and is saying yes to new ideas together. So if you're a cat, then I'm a cat.
Oh, Allie, thank you. I feel less embarrassed and less alone. Now we can just have fun as cats together.
Meow.
I love it. Allie, thank you for showing me how the yes and philosophy can work. Now I know that we can turn unexpected things into new fun opportunities. It's even better if we do it together. Thanks, Allie.
No problem, Kim. Well, wait, maybe there is one problem.
What's that?
Well, now I don't know how to get rid of this cat filter.
Oh, don't worry, Allie. We'll figure it out together.
Thanks, Kim. Bye, everyone.
Since what we choose is what we are, and what we love we act will be. The goal may ever lead us on, the will to reach it makes us free.
Hey, Christina, how you doing?
Good, Brian. I'm good. I'm excited to try out improv with you for this service. I've been told you're pretty good at it.
Well, let's just say most of the audiences that see me perform say they're pretty memorable.
Great. Well, how do we start?
Okay, so why don't you throw out a scene and we'll just kind of see where it takes us.
Okay. Hello there, sir. Here is your entree. Can I bring you anything else?
Oh, nope, I'm good, thanks.
Are you sure? How about some more napkins?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so Christina, I'm just going to stop you there. You're kind of grinding things to a halt. Supposed to kind of, be funny and interesting. So that's okay.
Great.
You're new to this. I get it. That's fine. why don't I throw out a scene and maybe I can get us started a little bit better.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, congratulations. Here is your first place trophy. Way to go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's not easy to
slay a dragon. Oh boy, it was just really impressive with what you did.
Well, my mother, she taught me long ago.
No, it really looked like you had kind of this innate ability to be able to just get that dragon. Just nice job.
Actually, I was going to say,
yeah, you know what? Why don't I just be working on your celebration? We can invite all your friends and family so they can see what a great job you did.
Inherent worth and dignity, inherent worth and dignity. Okay, Brian, this isn't working.
What's up? I thought I was doing great.
I mean, I don't seem to be able to get my ideas across. Isn't improv supposed to be a shared experience?
You know, I've gotten that feedback before from other performers, but it always kind of seemed like a them problem, not a me problem.
All right. Well, I have an idea. Let's get some expert advice on improv and let's just see if that helps.
Okay, let's give it a shot.
All right.
Our first reading this morning is from the book Bossy Pants by the actress and comedian Tina Fey. She's discussing the rules of improv comedy. The first rule of improvisation is always agree and say yes. If we're improvising and I say, freeze, I have a gun, and you say, that's not a gun, it's your finger, you're pointing your finger at me, our improvised scene has ground to a halt. But if I say, freeze, I have a gun, and you say, the gun I gave you for Christmas, you bastard, then we have started a scene because we have agreed that my finger is in fact a Christmas gun.
She continues, the second rule of improvisation is not only to say yes, but yes and. If I start a scene with, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you just say, yeah, then we're kind of at a standstill. But if I say, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you say, what did you expect? We're in hell. Or if I say, I can't believe it's so hot in here, and you say, I told you we shouldn't have crawled into this dog's mouth. Now we're getting somewhere. To me, yes and means don't be afraid to contribute. It's your responsibility to contribute. Always make sure you're adding something to the discussion. Your initiations are worthwhile.
Our second reading continues also from Bossy Pants, and she's describing the final rule of improv comedy. There are no mistakes, only opportunities. If I start a scene as what I think is very clearly a cop riding a bicycle, but you think I'm a hamster in a hamster wheel, guess what? Now I'm a hamster in a hamster wheel. I'm not going to stop everything to explain what it was really supposed to be a bike. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up being a police hamster who's been put on hamster wheel duty because I'm too much of a loose cannon in the field. In improv, there are no mistakes, only beautiful, happy accidents. Okay, Christina, you know what? That makes a lot more sense. I think maybe following the rules a little bit closer probably would make it a little bit more enjoyable.
Good. Yeah, I agree because I was about to excommunicate you before. I don't even know if Unitarian Universalists do that, but it would be worth looking up.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. That probably was really annoying. Do we want to maybe try it again and see if we can follow the rules a little bit more closely?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. I'll throw out an idea.
Okay.
Hey there, Brian. What's that in your hand? What are you eating?
Hey, Christina. I got my Wilmar's chocolates. I happen to be one of the big winners from turning my pledge card in early at the fellowship. And so I'm just having a little snack.
Hey, look at that. I love Wilmar's chocolate. I love those little ones with the pecans in them. Those are so
very tasty. Yeah. Oh, and there's also this piece of paper in here. It looks like a ticket, maybe. Was I supposed to get something else with the chocolates?
No, you didn't eat it, did you?
I licked it a little bit, but no, I didn't eat it. It's right here.
What does it say? Oh, Brian, it says that if you turn that ticket in, you're going to win $1 million.
What?
Wait, hold it up again. How many strikes is that?
a lot.
No, it says if you turn it in, you're going to win $1 billion. Holy moly.
Wow. Do you know how many pecan clusters I could buy with $1 billion?
Well, I mean, yeah, but you know, we always say that if you lose your job or something, you can always call Phyllis and change your pledge. But if you win $1 billion, you might call Phyllis and change your pledge.
Okay. I could donate some pecan cluster. Oh, or did you mean like maybe donate some of the money itself? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think would be useful for the fellowship if they had that kind of cash?
Well, you know, if you donate that money, at least some of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't excommunicate you.
Okay. I think we could strike an arrangement there.
You know, 2 weeks ago, I did a sermon on how much my son loves dinosaurs. I bet with $1 billion, we could bring a T-Rex back to life.
Oh, okay. You've seen Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah, but that's just a movie. I mean, the T-Rex always gets a really bad rap.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking maybe we could get DeLoreans for all of the staff. So like when the roads are bad, they could just fly to work.
Would it have a time machine?
Yeah. You don't watch a lot of movies, do you? Yeah. Time machine, DeLorean. Yes.
Okay, well, that could be very useful. I mean, you know, we could always just get more staff.
True.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not quite as fun as a T-Rex or a DeLorean, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't I go to the dealership and see how many I can line up? And then maybe you could go call a scientist and see how much amber we would need to bring back from the past.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do some research. And in the meantime, if you're going to give some of that money to the fellowship. Okay.
I will. Yeah.
Then I'll put an ad on Indeed and see if we can hire some more staff.
Okay. That sounds perfect.
All right. Fun.
All right.
Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds, rejoice in wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that binds.
My first exposure to comedy was the Comedy Channel, which is a precursor to Comedy Central. Back in the early 90s, it mostly aired clips of stand-up from the 80s. You know, a comedian standing in front of a brick wall with a microphone, making witty observations about airline food. But occasionally, they would air this show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? That I found entirely captivating. The show's still on the air now, albeit with a different host and different performers. The original iteration I saw was British, and thus my first exposure to any non-American entertainment. And secondly, it was performance art. The host would throw out suggestions, a physical setting or a style of music, for example, to the four performers to construct a scene. It would often start out seriously and then very quickly devolve into something bizarre and hilarious. They came up with unusual skits, musical numbers, danced around with strange props. Even the jokes that referenced England that I didn't get still somehow made me laugh. And at first, I didn't realize that this show was improvised. I thought it was somehow scripted and the performers were just acting out what they'd rehearsed. I mean, whose line is it anyway seems to refer to a written performance, right? But over time, I learned that these comedians were able to come up with not only something coherent, but also funny in a matter of mere seconds. They were collectively working to create a shared reality that led to laughter. What a gift. My mindset back then, at age 12 or 13, was that adulthood also must be scripted. All the grown-ups in my life automatically knew what they were doing because they were following their grown-up scripts. Clearly, they had received their manual of how to be 27 or 42 or 70, and were just following those instructions. Now, I got a little bit older and realized that unfortunately, my script was not going to show up. My parents did their best to prepare me along the way, but I still felt like I was just lurching through life, making it up as I went. I used to get incredibly self-conscious about what I would say and how I would act, convinced that I was doing it all wrong, and if I just had that script, I could play my part. Now, I see being able to make it up as you go really is a gift, and a scripted life would be pretty miserable. If nothing is truly preordained, then we get to decide the direction our lives take. We can yes and a decision and see where it takes us. And sometimes we need to yes and down a path for a long time before figuring out it's not the path for us any longer. We can choose to bring that scene to a close and find a new one that fits better. We may have scene partners in life for long stretches of time, or we may change jobs or partners or neighborhoods, or life circumstances happen and start fresh with new players. There's something magical about having people in your life that you can have a shared reality with. The things you create together that you couldn't do by yourself because you needed their individual unique input, with the whole being greater than the sum of those individual parts. What a gift indeed.
The first time that I really encountered improv comedy was when I was living in Chicago in seminary, and I would occasionally go downtown to Second City, the improv troupe that launched many famous Saturday Night Live careers, including Tina Fey, who wrote the readings that we heard earlier. It was so fascinating to me how they could call out to the audience for input. Location, Paris. A holiday, Halloween. An animal, octopus. And voila, they would concoct a scene taking place in Paris on Halloween involving a dramatic conflict with a pet octopus, and it would be hilarious. I would think to myself, and I still do, how did they do that? I know I would freeze up. I would get way too anxious. I would worry that I don't know what to say next. In fact, when Brian and I met by Zoom last week to record the improv scenes that you saw, I was really nervous. What if I can't think of anything to say? What if I'm not funny? Luckily, I was partnering with Brian, who's a pretty funny guy, and our ability to bounce ideas back and forth was natural and fun. I love what Brian said in his reflection about thinking as a kid that adults had a script for life. I know that I thought that too, and it was really disappointing to find out the truth. But as an adult, I have learned skills for figuring things out as I go. And one of the most important of these skills has been finding a community to support me when I don't know what to do. This year has been like a giant improv for our world, for our society, and for our fellowship too. If you had asked me to come up with an off-the-wall scene idea for this year's pledge campaign a year ago, I would never have dreamed up a scenario where we were 11 months into a worldwide pandemic, offering worship and connection opportunities by Zoom, and communicating entirely by phone, email, Facebook, and videos. Honestly, if someone had started our improv scene with that setup a year ago, I might have just said, no. End scene. But here we are, continuing to play off of each other, build on the reality that we find ourselves in, and collaborate with creativity. Unitarian Universalism is the improv comedy of religions. We, as a theological tradition, strive to embody the yes and in our values and in our actions. We're not set in our ways with only one path to follow. We believe that our search for truth and meaning is enhanced when we do it together. Here are the two most important things that I have learned from improv comedy about how to be a better Unitarian Universalist. Number one, trust and boundaries make the scene work. And number two, you are needed to collaborate creatively. Okay, so number one, trust and boundaries make the scene work. Improv comedy only works, yes, and only works if everyone in the scene agrees to the ground rules. They need to understand that they're in a scene and that they're going to trust each other and work together, acknowledging each other's creations and trying to add to the scene so that it's able to continue. If any of those agreements are missing, then the whole improv falls apart. We saw this in the first scene that Brian and I tried earlier. I was trying to participate, but he was only going with his own ideas, or he was simply stopping it altogether. Now, spoiler alert, that was a pre-prepared scene. Brian's not really that bad at improv comedy. He actually is just a really good sport, and he wrote that scene himself. Now, I was recently in our fellowship building, as I am today, and something caught me the corner of my eye. It was a small half sheet of paper. And when I went over to it, I saw that it was this, a copy of our order of service from March 9th, 2020. The last time we were in our building together for worship. It was a little like uncovering the ash from the Mount Vesuvius eruption. Something just frozen in time like that. The title of the sermon that day, almost a year ago, was Freedom and Fences. Brian Merton was the worship leader that day, and I was preaching, just like today. If you were around that Sunday morning, you might remember that we were visited by protesters from a local conservative group. They've been known to picket outside of Planned Parenthood and local schools, Lawrence University, and other churches. On March 2nd, the week before, they had visited our neighbor across the street, Prince of Peace Lutheran, protesting their ELCA stance, which is pro-choice. But that Sunday, March 9th, it was, for lack of a better word, our turn to get protested. So these people arrived, they stood on our sidewalk as people drove or walked into our parking lot for worship. They had large signs with profanity, and they were screaming hateful sentiments that were anti-gay, anti-choice, and anti-transgender at our congregants. As your minister, I went out there before the service and I talked briefly with them. I was grateful for Brian. If you can't tell on Zoom, Brian is very tall and I am very not tall. I was so grateful that he accompanied me out to the parking lot. I told these protesters that they were allowed to be where they were, but that I would ask you not to engage with them. When I came back in the building and our services began, I said the same to you. It was a heartbreaking moment. But I was proud of the way that we handled it that Sunday. None of you were hateful in return. We did not denigrate their humanity. We believe that they still have inherent worth and dignity. However, some folks after the fact asked if we had invited them in. Had we offered them coffee? Had we tried to extend ourselves to them in other ways? And the truth is, we did not. And I'm okay with that. I could not, in good conscience, trust that they were going to stop screaming hate at the people in our space who come here for peace and sustenance. The reason I'm reminded of that Sunday, almost a year ago, is because yes and doesn't always work. There has to be trust. There has to be a shared agreement to work toward connection if it's going to succeed. I could yes and those protesters all day long, especially if we were in a one-on-one situation. We could disagree, we could discuss our biblical disagreements, maybe possibly even come to some shared agree to disagree truce. But that morning, they did not show up for dialogue. If I start a scene with, "Here's your meal, sir. Can I offer you anything else?" and Brian says, "No," then that is where the scene ends. They came here with gigantic, gruesome placards and a bullhorn to yell at us, not with us. And that is where the scene ends. I might be willing and able to keep the scene going, but it won't go anywhere if both parties aren't willing to participate. That Sunday morning last March, the topic of our service was freedom within fences, the need for boundaries in order to be truly free. This is still true. Without our covenants, our agreement to abide by our Unitarian Universalist 7 principles and to hold our values as central in our relationships, then yes and isn't possible. Our creativity is stunted without our collective agreements to participate in right relationship. I'm so glad that we have our principles for a healthy congregation, which guide our behavior together as a congregation. They still guide our behavior even when we are online. And I'm so glad that we have our healthy congregation team whose job is to support our efforts to keep all of our relationships strong and healthy. With these foundations and the covenants that we have created in our small groups and our committees, then we can flourish within our community as active, creative participants in this endeavor that we call Unitarian Universalism. If we have those agreements in place, and here at our fellowship we do, then how do we keep the scene going? This brings me to our second point. You are needed to collaborate creatively. In the little UU meditation manual, little book entitled Bless the Imperfect, the Unitarian Universalist minister Don Southworth is sharing a story about how he attended his first day of seminary, and he was invited along with each of the students to go up and pick up a little sand dollar and hold it and meditate on it. But each time he got one, it crumbled in his hands. He was starting to get worried that this was a bad omen for his future ministry. And then a t-shirt caught his eye. Quote, it said, "How will you use your gifts?" Since sand dollars did not seem to be my thing, I hoped I could do a better job with that question. On that day, that question became one of the guiding lights of my life and ministry. How will you use your gifts? Imagine, he writes, what would happen if every one of us committed to living out the answer to that question and helping others to do the same? Imagine if every person in the world overcame their doubts, fears, and oppressions and was able to share all their gifts. We have the power to change and heal the world when we use our gifts to bless the world. End quote. If Unitarian Universalism and this fellowship community in particular are to be successful, we need each other. We need you. And we need to be brave and willing to share our gifts and our contributions. This month, we are focusing, as we do each year, on our stewardship campaign, our request for everyone to complete their pledge form so that we know how much to budget for in the coming year. It's hard to be creative with our plans for the future if we don't have any idea how we could possibly fund them. So yes, we do need your contributions in terms of your pledge and your giving. But we also need your thoughts and your opinions. We need sharing your voice in our services and our other weekday and weeknight offerings. Tina Fey says this about improvising a scene and being willing to keep the scene going. Quote, to me, yes and means don't be afraid to contribute. It's your responsibility to contribute. Always make sure you're adding something to the discussion. Your initiations are worthwhile. End quote. Now, of course, it's also good to know when to close our mouths. For example, if we're just repeating something that someone else said in the room, or if we are engaging in a social justice effort and we want to ensure that we're following the lead of the people who are closest to the issue that we're trying to help. But when we're talking about theology, growing our hearts and minds, or creatively engaging our fellowship community, yes and is a good rule of thumb. This means that if someone shares with you that they are a UU Christian and they love Bible stories, even if you are an atheist, you could say, yes. And I believe in the power of humanity without the need for God. Isn't it cool how we can both learn from each other here? Let's talk some more. Or if you're invited to join a committee, you could say, yes. And when do we meet? Or, yes, and right now is not a great time for me. Can you ask me again in the future? Or even, yes, and I'm not sure that's the best fit for my skills. Can we talk about other places I might serve better? There are lots of ways to say yes and. Don Southworth says, quote, we have the power to change and heal the world when we use our gifts to bless the world. He continues, and what better place to practice than in our religious communities, where we are encouraged to bring our unique talents, skills, passions, and dreams and share them as widely as we can. Our faith and our fellowship is not about one right answer, one perfect story, or one authoritative voice. We are a faith tradition rooted in congregationalism. Congregationalism is a religious structure that emphasizes shared leadership and shared inspiration. This means that we are a collectively, collaboratively creative people. We work together to grow our minds and spirits. We believe that we can't do it entirely alone. You are needed, not only for what you will gain from your active participation, but for what you will provide to others and to our greater whole. I'm so glad to be a part of a faith community where we can find our way forward through joyful times and hard ones, inspiring and supporting each other with new ideas and ways of being together in right relationship. Because as Tina Fey says, in a successful improv scene, and I would add, in a healthy, collaborative faith community, quote, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. Amen. And may it be so.
Sharing our individual joys and concerns helps us collectively to grow resilience, a creative endeavor, if ever there was one. One of the ways that we co-create this community, and even this morning's service, is by taking the risk to share about our personal lives. We can do that right this moment by typing into the chat box any personal news you might wish to share with our community so that we can hold space with you as we worship. If you would like to talk directly to me or to another minister or to someone from our care team, please let me know and I would be happy to connect you. You can still always submit joys and concerns on our website or by emailing me or any other member of our staff team, and we will include this in our weekly email. Let us breathe into this shared silence and then join in our sung response.
And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer.
This month, we're focusing on creativity, which means creation. And here at the fellowship, we often think about what it means to co-create in community. Not each of us alone, but what we can make when we each cooperate to make something bigger than ourselves. And so now, as we take part in our morning offering, please consider the spirit of creation and generosity and what that spirit is calling for you to do. How you might help to create what you wish to see in the world. Just because our offerings are virtual, they are no less real, and we need your support. We know that there are always those among us who are in need as well, and we're here to help. It's why we exist as a fellowship, to be here for you when you need us. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Reverend Christina, Reverend Leah, or myself if you are in need of financial or emotional support so that we can offer help. We also want to honor those among us who have been left relatively unscathed by the crises of recent months. Those of us who have resources to offer. We, like many organizations in our community, were hit financially by the pandemic, and so we do want to encourage you to continue to give, or to begin giving if you haven't yet, so that our ministries might be able to continue and flourish for the months and years to come. And as you hear these words of testimonial from Carol, I invite you to think about why you are a part of the fellowship and why you give. And then, please do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Zarnecki, and wanted to tell everyone that over the years, the fellowship has been for me in all its locations, from the Girl Scout House to Superior Street to Phillips Lane, a welcoming, friendly, open community where we can learn, explore, and share our values. Sometimes we grieve together, and sometimes we celebrate, and you have always been great at celebrating. The fellowship has been a place that upholds values that are important to me, like justice and the value of science and reason. I support the fellowship because I believe it's so important to have a community like ours exist and flourish. A community where we can discuss ideas and each of us can be supported and encouraged on our individual journeys. A community where each of us can find a voice. Now more than ever, when our country has been facing political and health crises, I think it's more than important than ever that the fellowship is there for people to sustain us and encourage us and help us to find a way forward. Personally, for me, it's been a joy to connect via Zoom. And I'm so thankful for the dedicated staff, the ministers, Steve, Adam's expertise in creating outstanding and heartwarming services each Sunday. It enriches all our lives.
As we come to the end of our service, we will extinguish our chalice flame even as we hold its light in our hearts. Please join me in saying our words. As we extinguish this flame, let us go our way with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world.